Hi, everyone. Well, thank you so much, Karolina, for being here. I am extremely curious about the fact that we share a lot of similarities, and I want to go straight to what is the biggest question in my head, which is you are from Poland and you moved from Poland to the UK.
Yep.
So I feel identified with that because I'm from Venezuela and I moved to the Midwest. As far as I know, Poland does has winters and it's not like Venezuela that is a Caribbean, but certainly the UK winters are very well known for being gloomy. And I just want to know, like, how was that transition? How everything went when you move? And I'm sure there were phases to it. So I want to know how that awareness developed over time.
Yeah. Well, hello. Thank you for having me. And yeah, it's true. I came from Poland, so we have seasons. We have four typical seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And we used to have snow, a lot of snow in winter, which I loved. So when I came to the UK, my journey started up north, so actually winter up north was snowy, so it was very similar to Poland. But then when I moved to the south of the country, it was a totally different story. It's it was raining all the time,
Hmm.
like gray, gloomy sky and rain all the time. It was horrible.
All the time is like what, like 300 days a year, or like all the time is
The
is a
whole
lot of time.
the whole winter season, the whole
Hmm.
winter months, it was raining day and night.
Wow.
To me,
Yeah,
it was all the time.
yeah, that's why I bring that up because you love the snow. I love the snow as well.
Mm.
When there is snow outside, I go outside, to do whatever I
Yeah,
have to do. Like, it doesn't bother me. Now, there are other elements like the cold. The more important one, I feel like, is the light. So when we're talking about rainy, I right away, I get it. Like, rain itself is not just a rain, it's like the gloominess behind it, which is fine.
yeah,
At the time of this recording, we are transitioning into the fall right now where I live, and it's really nice to get one of those days. But I was telling my wife yesterday, imagine getting 2 weeks of this. She's like, of course, like that affects anyone.
yeah,
So I want to know how you handle it. Like all the time being gloomy and rainy, you
yeah,
had to develop some sort of awareness, and I'm sure it was a process. I'm sure there were a lot of ups and downs through it.
yeah. Well, it was a process because at the beginning I didn't pay attention to it. But to be honest, at the beginning I didn't pay attention to self-care at at all the way I am doing it now. So throughout the years, I realized that there is something not right. And at some point, I remember when I was working with adults with mental health issues, I discovered SAD, seasonal affective disorder, and that hit me. It didn't mean I had it, but it was making sense to me that, okay, at some point when the sun is hiding behind the sky, behind the gloomy clouds, my mood is dropping down. And actually, it is happening now. We had fantastic summertime, 2 months of dryness, sunshine, and over the night, it's gone. We have gloomy sky, we have rain, we have colder days, and I can see that I'm going downhill with how I feel. So I have to observe myself, and that's how it started with me. I had to observe myself. I started observing myself, how I react, and it was very important for me to make sure that my surrounding is cheerful. So if you came to my house, a lot of people say your house is very colorful. It's because I need the color and I need to have it around me. So I wear colorful clothes. I have loads of colorful things around the house I can look at, and you know, that brings smile. It helps. Nutrition is also very important. So I had to make sure that I was eating good stuff during winter. And just, yeah, doing a lot of things which were bringing joy to me, to be honest. But self-awareness was the key to that.
I want to reflect on that because in my own personal journey it was a very similar story. The first 5 years, I was completely out of sync. I didn't know anything, so I was very ignorant about the
Yeah.
fact that the environment is
Yeah.
taking a toll on me. It has an effect, whether it's positive or negative. And after 5 years, I came to the realization, thanks to a conversation with my wife, that, oh, you just have the winter blues. And it's like, what is that? Like,
Mm.
what is a winter blues? I have no idea. And that's what started this journey. That was over a decade ago. And I'm fascinated by how the environment affects us, but
Yeah.
also how we have a degree of control over that. Now, the feeling
Absolutely.
that we get. So you are a professional mental health expert. You help, primarily busy moms, but that's not your only client, and you still feel that way, and that's okay. So that's
Yeah.
what I also have a big effort in what I do is bring normalness to it. Like, we don't control how we feel to it in the precise moment that we feel it. Like the feeling is a reflection, is a reflect of
Yeah.
our biology, of our body, of our chemistry.
Yeah.
What we do control is what we do after. So you're talking about self-care, and you're recognizing back in the day that wasn't part of your vocabulary, it wasn't around. The same for me. So I have to recognize that.
Mm.
When I felt the worst, when I felt the winter blues, seasonal affective disorder, I wasn't really prioritizing my health. I didn't even know how to do it to begin with.
Yeah.
But over time, I realized, okay, there's this thing out there, self care. Let me try this out and start creating habits and routines. But what's interesting is that they kept breaking down. For me, I mean, at least that was my experience. Like, okay, I figured this out. 3 months go by, 4 months go by. I'm doing great. All
Hmm.
of a sudden, I'm out of sync. Like, what just happened? And it took a lot of time to realize there's a pattern happening here. And often than none is when the season change.
Yeah.
And we all recognize the winter. But I'm curious to know if you have also recognized the summer. Because the reason that we recognize one is because the other also exists. So, from a mental health perspective, how important it is to also dosify and to live well during those times of the year that we have more energy, that we have a better mood,
Yeah.
because it's an extreme sometimes, right?
Yeah. It's really interesting. I would start with A, it's really important to be self-aware. B, it's really important to understand that self-care is not just pleasure or pampering, it's about supporting our overall well-being. And I think that's the key. And the third thing which I would share with you is you're talking about summer, but I've noticed that the most difficult season for me is actually spring,
Hmm.
not winter, not summer, but spring. I honestly have to be really, really compassionate to myself and have to be really, really aware of what's happening to me and how to look after myself, because spring is very difficult for me. I'm flat pancake most of the time. My energy is almost non-existing. Why? I don't know. I love sun, so summertime is really great for me because I feel energized. I feel this is my season. winter I got used to it, but for some reason spring is just, oh, it's a killer.
I agree. We often focus on the winter, but the reality is like there are so many shades to it. And when
Yeah.
you're in the middle of the winter, you have dealt with it for a few months. But when you're in the springtime, at the beginning of the spring, the end of the winter, you've been dealing for it with, 6 months ago. You've been getting that cloudy pattern, that cold weather.
Yeah.
The social dynamics are its own unique rhythm. So I get it. I absolutely understand that. And when you look into Chinese traditional medicine, there is a rebirth that happens in the spring. There's like this revival. But often what happens before is what you're describing. It's like you can't wait for that to happen. You've been dealing with the weather for so long that it wears on you. So
Yes.
there are two ways to look at it. One of them is adenosine accumulation. And another one is just neurochemicals like for example, in the darker time of the year, we produce more melatonin.
Mm.
And over time, your body gets used to more and more and produces more and more and more. And it just gets to a point like you said, you're a flat pancake. I love that description. But what I'm curious of is when the spring arrives, like the real spring arrives, and it gets the weather flips, and you get the first day of spring that you go outside and you start seeing everybody walking their dogs
Yep.
and you see the first flower. I mean, that is like the moment that you are experiencing something so new that you haven't experienced for the last, perhaps 7, 8 months. That
Hmm.
something switch. And I just want to know because you are very self aware. Do you know what's going on in that moment?
I think I do. I wake up. I wake up. I feel happier. I feel joy in my body. I feel like, okay, I'm ready to go. However, at the same time, I love my sleep. So the beginning of spring is for me is a little bit like for bears, They wake up from long winter sleep, and if you do it like that over the night, um, the bear can be really, really grumpy. And I think that's what's happening to me. I'm very
You
up
know,
and down.
what you're describing is such a universal feeling. Everybody experiences it at different shades, but what you're describing is like that, very, in a way extreme, but not because it's good or bad. It's just simply you're deeply experiencing it. And my question to you will be, where daylight savings time kicks in, meaning depending where we are, sometimes that weather pattern that you're describing happens after daylight savings time or before.
Hmm.
And what I notice is through noticing this pattern that happens in our lives throughout the year is that whatever we're doing in the winter is very different than we're going to be doing in the
Yep.
spring and summer. And there's a transition process that happens. Number one, like every day, we're gaining 2, 3, 4 minutes depending where you are. So by the time spring arrives, it's getting dark by perhaps 7 p.m.,
Hmm.
7:30, 8 o'clock. It depends where everybody that is watching is at. It depends of that. But then compare that to the winter. At the beginning of the winter, it was getting dark by 4 p.m.
Yep.
Now we've been getting light in the afternoon. All of a sudden, this is described as spring fever. We're having a hard time going to sleep. Like we just can't go to sleep. Why at night? Why? Because it's bright outside.
Yeah.
So I find interesting how you're describing this, and my question is daylight savings time. In your own experience and with the clients that you work with, how you see that affecting the entire world.
I don't know how it's affecting the entire world because everyone is different. I can only talk about my own experience, and for me, uh, it's good. It's good. I feel better when I'm more energized. I have more energy when the evening is longer.
Mm.
because I feel like I'm a bear. When it's getting darker outside, like 6 o'clock, I'm ready for bed. And then when it's getting light in the morning at 7 o'clock, I'm ready to get up. So I'm like, yeah, I'm like a bear or a chicken. I don't know. One of those animals, depending on the season, I think.
Yeah.
But um, but yeah, I've noticed that among my friends and among my clients, I can see that when the day is longer, it's easier and people have more energy. When the day goes darker very quickly, like 4 o'clock, you can see today. I didn't expect it. It's really dark outside suddenly because it started raining, and everything started being gloomy. And yeah, and now instead of talking to you, I'd rather have be in my pajama with my cup of tea and go to bed.
Well, that just talks about the influence on our environment and how everybody's affected differently. Everybody has a good season, a bad season.
Yeah,
There's people with reverse seasonal affective disorder that they're often misrepresented because there are not that many of them.
yeah,
But there's a biological trigger that happens, and everybody experiences those differently. So it's not about saying this is how you experience it. It's about become aware about how you experience it,
yeah.
which bring us back to the basics. So you already mentioned sleep. I want to know your perspective on the basics
Mhm.
because there is a world out there screaming biohacks, supplements, and I often find that sure they're helpful, but if you don't have the basics right, it's like you're just kind of wasting your money and time. So I want to know your opinion on that. I know that that is something you pay a lot of attention and what got us into this conversation, and I just can't wait.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, going back to basics is my mantra because that's what brought me back from my burnout. Um, when I hit my burnout, I went through cookie cutter approach. Everything was what was out there on social media. I was trying, and instead of feeling better, I felt worse. So it didn't work for me. And so I decided to go back to basics. And basics to me means nutrition, sleep, exercise, um, making sure that you breathe. You would be surprised how many people cannot breathe properly. How many people hold their breath, or the breath is so shallow that you think, gosh, just breathe, breathe.
Mm.
So yeah, basic is really, really important. Going back to basic is really, really important. Sleep is important. And having sometimes when I talk to my clients and I say having a sleep routine is not just for children, they look at me and almost laugh. But it's true. You need to have your routine. You cannot be up till 1 o'clock reading or scrolling your phone. Sleep hygiene is important. There is two different things. Sleep hygiene, everything what you do before you go to sleep. So, for example, I have a rule that I go upstairs to my bedroom and my phone is switched off. I don't use my phone in bed. I read for a bit and then I go to sleep. And that's it. I don't bring anything that can distract me from winding down. And
I agree.
this is what I worked with my daughter about as well, from the her being little baby, we had the routine and sleep was really important. She's 15 now, and she knows how important sleep is. And she's not a typical teenager staying up till 1, 2 o'clock. She's she's gone by 10 o'clock. And that's how it should be.
I agree. There are many angles that you touched that really resonate with me, especially the fact that sleep is perhaps the most important behavior that we can all pay attention so that we can see other behaviors flourish.
Yeah.
Because when I hear that, I don't let people know why. So do you want to tackle that? Like, why is sleep important? Why I shouldn't be scrolling at night? So I think most people don't recognize why. And once they understand why, they might actually try it.
Yeah. So sleep is important because it helps you to regain energy, helps you to rebuild your nervous system, relax your nervous system. It helps your brain, and we're getting older. And if we don't stimulate our brain, if we don't look after our brain, we may end up with loads of diseases, including dementia. Sleep is a huge part of having a healthy brain and healthy mind.
I agree. I often, so part of my seasonal routine, the number one behavior we touch on is sleep. It's
Yeah.
like, that's the first thing. Let's make sure that it is aligned with your seasonal environment. So we study the lighting pattern throughout your year in your specific location so that we can figure it out. Okay, this is when your sunset is happening, meaning your sleep shouldn't be the exact same time throughout the year. There is going to be a slight variation,
Yeah.
and you want to be aware of your sunset because that's when you start triggering melatonin.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes down to energy, recovery, I mean, your brain is going through neuroplasticity at night, is consolidating memories, is getting rid of the bad stuff, is getting um, when you sleep well, now you have a solid base to bring new stuff into your life. So, what is another basic behavior that you often look at? I think you already mentioned, I think nutrition, but which one will be the next one that you look into to ensure that a person is having the basics right?
Mm-hmm. I think the second one would be nutrition, because again, it's like with sleep. If you don't look after your nutrition properly, it is going to affect how you feel and how you function. So to give you an example, for many years, I didn't know that I was gluten intolerant. It was just by a chance that I discovered that. And then suddenly everything made sense to me. My headaches, my tummy issues, my low energy, me being irritable, that was the side effect of me eating gluten.
Hmm.
The moment I stopped eating
Oh.
gluten, my energy level came back, my headaches were gone.
Wow, like being self-aware.
Yeah,
So we are often growing with food around us, more or less. We often eat and don't pause to realize how we feel.
yeah,
But once you start taking the time to see how you feel after each meal, and then starting to realize that certain nutrients, in this case, whether it's milk or whether
hmm,
coming from lactose, whatever it is that you took, and it made you feel a certain way,
yeah,
it is impressive how easy you can start basically noticing without taking a test. Now there's a lot of testing that is available,
yeah,
but just as a point of self-awareness, because that's what it comes down to. It's like, how do
absolutely.
you feel after you eat?
Yeah. It's
So,
important to be self-aware, how you eat. So during your meal, the way you eat, some people eat very, very fast. That's not good. And being self-aware and aware how you feel after the meal. Uh, I'm sure you've noticed how you feel when you had hearty meal like potatoes, big lump of meat,
Mm-hmm.
gravy, and to compare it with a salad, light, fresh, loads of vegetables. Your
Mm-hmm.
energy level is totally different. With the
Yeah.
potato lump, you will feel like a bear ready to go to sleep.
Yeah.
With the
I agree.
salad,
So
you will feel,
from a seasonal perspective, there is Ayurveda and obviously Chinese traditional medicine that teaches us how certain foods also affect you differently depending on the season.
yeah,
And what is interesting is that it's kind of common sense to a degree. You shouldn't be eating ice cream in the middle of the winter. There's an actual biological reflex that happens in you when you do those things, and it's kind of against Chinese traditional medicine principles. Right now, where I am, we're transitioning into the fall, and I just ate my first stew yesterday. So this is a time where stews and soups and casseroles are actually good for you. But if you were eating that in the middle of the summer or in the springtime, it actually doesn't have the same effect. So I think that is fascinating
yeah,
how we respond to different foods depending on our environment.
yeah,
So the example of eating those potatoes in that very heavy carb dense meal, the first thing that came to mind was when we do that in the winter. Like that was the first thing that came to mind. You know, let's say we're having an early
yeah,
dinner, 5 p.m., and you load yourself with carbs, which
hmm,
happens very often because instinctively we go there because it's a
yeah,
survival instinct. Like we want to provide carbs and create a reserve of fat. Why?
mm,
Because the environment is relatively harsh based on our evolutionary principles.
yeah,
And how do you feel after that is very differently if you will have eaten perhaps, a stew, with more protein and rich in nutrients, but not as, and with carbs, it's not about just eliminating them, not at all, but bringing other nutrients,
yeah,
and what you feel is just very different. So what I find interesting is that the afternoon crash that is so often experienced during the winter time can
hmm,
be relatively easily, I won't say completely removed, but diminished, or at least used in a good way
yeah.
by the basics. So we're talking about sleep, we're talking about nutrition. So my next question is, how about movement? How about exercise? How
Mm.
important is that in our lives? Is that part of the basics?
It is part of the basics. It is part of the basics. And when we talk about movement and exercise, we're talking not only about us going to the gym or us doing yoga, because everyone is different. Yeah. Even if you work 9 to 5 in front of the computer, you need a break to wake up your body. So even if you do 5 minutes or of sit-ups or sprint in your room, um, or just dancing for 5 minutes, it wakes you up. Um, it stimulates your brain. It helps to, again, it helps your nervous system, because otherwise your nervous system stores everything. And then by the end of the day, you feel tensed in your shoulders, you feel tensed
Mm-hmm.
in your neck, you feel tensed in your head, you end up with a headache. So movement is really important. It
I
brings
agree.
all the positive hormones. So even in wintertime, you may feel a little bit better when you move a little bit.
Oh yeah. So you're just mentioning movement, and I come to think about the different seasons, and you just finished with the winter. So a little giveaway is those walking treadmills that are now so popular, and maybe $100 that you can have in your desk. Now, what is interesting is that throughout the summer, I go and work on my courtyard. I have a really nice courtyard full of trees. So I
Yeah.
try to stay there as much as I can, and I'm in contact with nature, and I'm constantly kind of moving in and out. And
Hmm.
in the winter now, we are in our indoor environments more often than not, and we're
Hmm.
kind of limited through movement. We are moving less. It's just a natural implication of what the winter does to us. Like
Yeah.
you're saying, your neck, even the clothes that we wear make
Yeah.
us crunch, the boots, if we wear boots that are not as ergonomic or, in the summertime, I'm barefoot all the time.
Yeah.
That has a reaction in our body, that movement, and, in a way, exercise, let's just call it movement for now, will help.
Hmm.
So what I often pay attention to is how many people buy a treadmill. They kind of use it and then they put it on Facebook Marketplace. They want to get rid of it because they realize, oh, I just don't use it anymore. And this is what gets me, and is that tool for movement has a time in the year, which is the winter, the fall time, the springtime, and then it's just completely irrelevant. And that's when people start selling them because they don't realize they're going to need it again next winter. Because if you have a stand-up desk and you have a treadmill, you can actually put a lot of steps while you're working in the time of the year that you need it most. We're talking about endorphins and neurochemicals.
Yeah.
That will help tremendously. So it's about recognizing that our movement patterns change with the seasons and finding ways to adapt in a healthy way. Because if you stop working out and doing anything because the winter arrived and you feel like a bear, you're going to feel worse.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think you may not like it, but I think treadmill or anything like that, when we buy it to use it at home, um, that's being lazy.
Yeah, I get it. Like there's no replacement for a 10-minute walk in the morning, 10-minute walk at noon, perhaps a 10-minute walk in the afternoon. What I
Yeah.
always look is how to make this convenient. So, especially when you need it the most is in the wintertime. Like you need it the most. You need to
Yeah.
go out there and do it. Like absolutely. Why? Because you need to get the sunlight. You need to get the outdoor connection. You need to get that movement going. Absolutely. But we often spend about 8 hours in front of our desk, perhaps. And if one of those 8 hours happens in movement, that's a big win, right? Now, if you make it two, the list goes on and on. So it's like
Yeah.
that makes that behavior convenient and accessible by just that. Now, that doesn't replace going outside and doing it, right?
And I think that's really important what you said, because we're looking as a society, that's what I find. We're looking for quick, easy solutions. That's why going back to basics is so difficult these days. That's why going back to basics is, for a lot of people, is seen as it's not going to work because it's free, or it's not going to work because it's too simple. It's not going to work because it's not luxurious. Yeah, because we
Mm-hmm.
are, the market, the wellness market is telling us you need to spend a lot of money for something, so it's worth,
Yeah,
it has to be
yeah,
luxurious, otherwise you're not going to
yeah,
achieve anything. You have to spend loads of money on this spa retreat,
yeah.
otherwise you're not going to be relaxed. But that's why I'm so passionate about basics.
Yeah. We often associate value with cost,
Yeah,
but not the cost that take us to go do it, but the cost that comes out of our
yeah,
wallet. And we think that we can shortcut because we spend so much money on something that we don't even use after a few months.
exactly. That's why I think that treadmill is a way of being lazy, because like you said, during the winter it's really, really important to be out as much as possible during the day. And when people say to me, well, that's impossible because I'm at work, I'm in the office, well, with all due respect, you go to the toilet, yeah, so you can go out for 5 minutes out to stay outside. You go to smoke, you can go outside for 10 minutes. So, there are lots of
Yeah,
excuses,
absolutely.
but
There's a
for
lot of
any
excuses are made up.
excuse, I can give you something. Yeah, but, and a lot of
I
people who
agree.
work with me don't like it, but at the end they say, actually, now I get it. Now I know why you were so nagging me, because it makes sense, and I really see a point of that now.
Now, I want to let go of the opportunity to say that outdoor connection for me is one of those basics. I have the CISO's framework, which we already discussed exercise, well, sleep, exercise, and movement, nutrition. And then one of those is also outdoor connection. So,
Yeah.
perhaps when you achieve multiple basics at once, you get a better benefit. Perhaps, sleeping outdoors when you go camping, you feel it, like you feel refreshed. And it's because you're achieving not just sleep, but sleeping in contact with
Yeah.
the nature around you. So I didn't want to let that go. So I think that that is huge. I
It is.
do hear you before saying grounding, and you have said it in a way that I don't think completely reflects to grounding from a practice perspective. But you have said the word grounding, being grounded.
Mhm.
I wanna hear your perspective on that. And since we're talking about basics, I think just by knowing how to do them, you ground. But is there also a grounding as far as the practice of connecting with nature as well?
Yeah, so nature is really important. Fresh air is really important. So that's another basics. Yeah. Fresh air is really important for our muscles, for our bodies, for our brains. When I talk about grounding, I'm talking about different tools. Everyone is different, so everyone needs something different. When you feel that you're a little bit iffy, uh, that's the sign for you to ground yourself. And it can be during the summertime, you go barefoot,
Mm-hmm.
touching grass with your bare feet is really, really good. Or sand or water is really, very good. Just being around trees is really, really
Mm-hmm.
good. Um, but if you're not able to do it for many reasons, simple grounding exercise can be just holding yourself and patting your shoulders,
Mm.
or just tapping on your chest. I don't know whether you can see. And if you feel a little bit anxious, you can say to yourself, you're safe, it's okay. It's a simple exercise, but it brings you here and now. That's what I mean by grounding.
Yeah, so it sounds to me the techniques that you're describing is to allow our nervous system to be safe, to feel safe, and to move from our parasympathetic system to our sympathetic system,
Yeah,
or vice versa. I always mix them up.
yeah,
It's a way to allow that to happen in an enclosed environment in a 1 minute, in 5 minutes, as breathing will do. You're talking about breathing. Breathing can be one
yeah,
of those as well.
absolutely. Breathing is go to as well,
Yeah, yeah,
because
go to.
it
I
grounds
agree.
you.
Something that I noticed. So I mean, we're talking about convenience versus excuses. So I like to go there,
Hmm.
and it's something that I have noticed, which is that grounding in the summer comes very naturally. Like it truly is. Like you can go outside, step on the grass,
Yeah,
great. I often found though, and this is to bring some light to the matter, that it's not as convenient for many of us that perhaps live in an urban environment. And it's not, again, let's just see if this is an excuse of this is real.
yep,
Because when we go for a walk, but we're usually walking, we can move to the grass and do a barefoot in the summer
hmm,
instead of going on the sidewalk on the concrete. We can do that. And in the winter time, though, is when I find grounding a little more inconvenient. And that's why the convenience plays a big factor. Now, I do agree. It's like we're not trying to cheat the system. We're not trying to make excuses to spend a lot of money on something so that we feel great. There's
Hmm.
no replacement to the real thing. Like there's absolutely no replacement to it.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to grounding and being in contact to the electromagnetic frequency of the air, I have choose to also have a grounding mat. I have choose to have a grounding mat under my desk. In my bed because I spend most of the day in my bed, right? Like if I sleep 8 hours, like if I'm grounding, that's a big plus. So it's not like it's a replacement, perhaps, but when I look at the winter and I'm realistic, how much time I'm gonna be grounding for the next 4 6 months? Temperatures are gonna be low. Uh, it's not like the whole winter is covered in snow, but the ground is frozen and you can only spend a few minutes out there.
Yeah.
Sure, I mean you can go through it and stay there a lot of time and be tough, and that's great. But realistically, for many of us, I think that that's when we look into those. I don't like to call them hacks, but it's what it is. It's like if I'm no grounding is good for me because it feels great. Because in the summer I feel great. What do I do in the summer that I feel great? I spend time outdoors. I ground. I'm barefoot a lot. So it's
Hmm.
just kind of like bringing a little bit of that into the winter. And another example would be like blue light, happy lights, therapy, happy lights. Again, there's no replacement for waking up in the morning, getting your sun. There's no replacement for that whack. You're getting the actual sunlight, but in reality,
Hmm.
during the winter time, if it's raining, okay, you will get something if you go out there, but you don't get the amount that we get in the summer, but you do get something.
Yeah.
But since it's cloudy and the degree of the sun hit us at a different degree, it's not like we're getting that much. But when we turn that happy light, that light therapy light that has over 10,000 lux of potency, we do get that. So it's kind of like there is a balance. And I will always choose to be in contact with nature, but it's the acknowledgement, the awareness that during certain seasons is a little more difficult, right? So
Yeah.
I
It
am
is.
extremely curious to know how you do that because your ideal client is a very busy mom.
Yeah.
And if we can learn from somebody that it can work, it's from moms. I got 3 kids under 6, so I get it. My wife is a lot busier than I am when it comes down to the kids. I'm busy all the time too, but she gets a heavier load. And it's like how you make that work, how you help your clients achieve that when time is limited, when stress goes and comes without you even having nothing to do with it sometimes.
Yeah.
How that works.
By going back to basics, honestly, I've heard about grounding mats, and I don't buy it, to be honest. I don't buy that idea. To me, it lie down on the floor for a couple of minutes on the hard floor and cover yourself with a blanket. That's grounding. Like, cover yourself like a burrito with a blanket. That's grounding. And roll on the floor. You do it with your children. That's how they ground. Do it for yourself. That's how I see it. So a lot of times, moms do grounding with the children,
Hmm.
and by that way, they teach the children to grounding techniques because children don't have time to lie down on the grounding mat, but they need something to bring them to here and now when they dysregulated. Yeah. So
Hmm.
it's a hug.
Hmm.
It's a kiss. It's yeah, rolling on the floor. Um, being covered with a blanket for 5 minutes and holding a cup of tea. That's grounding. Simple, basic things which you can do. And we're not talking about 10, 15, or half an hour. We're talking about 5 minutes. What I've learned, I tell you something funny. When I came to England first time, um, and I was introduced to cup of tea and biscuit time, I'm like, what the heck? What the heck? Why are we not working? Why are we enjoying cup of tea and biscuits? What's going on? It took me years to understand and realize that actually this cup of tea, this tea break, is actually a grounding time. So what I do now, to me now, the cup of tea is kind of a symbol. When I say to myself, it's time for a cup of tea, for me, it's a signal to, okay, we are having a pause. We need a pause and we're having a pause. And within 5-10 minutes, I feel that I'm back to myself. I feel grounded and I can go back to what I was doing or do something different.
I studied that in detail, perhaps, and it just reminds me of the ultradian rhythms, which are natural rhythms within us that give us a pattern of up and down,
Yeah.
up and down. And they never stop. When we sleep, we go through them. When we're awake, we go through them. And it is basically what we're describing as those breaks is something that I apply. So within my epigenetic seasonal programming method, I have meaningful breaks throughout the day.
Mhm.
And this is the thing. It's like most people living an 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, and then they completely want to disconnect of the world, and that's their break. It's like that's it, I'm done. But
Yeah.
in reality, what our body craves is rhythm,
Yeah.
and is having those meaningful breaks throughout the day. In this case, is every 90 to 120 minutes we're going through those cycles,
Hmm.
and now we're touching on breaks, which is not one. I mean, it is the basics. It absolutely is. The way that we use the breaks, I think, is where the basics come in.
Yeah.
So how we mix the exercise, how we mix the eating, how we mix the outdoor connection, how we mix the walk, how we mix the stretching, the grounding. In this case, you just mentioned nurturing relationships, hugging yourself, hugging
Hmm.
your child, spending time with a person that you admire and you have
Yeah.
a good relationship with. So all what this is going from a state of stress and alertness and be like, I gotta focus, I gotta get this done, I wanna perform, I have
Yeah.
to let me just relax. Like let me breathe. Let me enjoy 10-15 minute break.
Yeah.
And it's to have that balance, to have that rhythm. So do you go deep in breaks? As far as I'm hearing, it's like you have made it part of this is part of the basics. This is how we do it, right? So if you can explore a little more how those breaks look like, how many of them we kind of need, how a normal day looks like, and with the understanding that we're not talking about cookie cutter solutions, we're talking about customization of we're all different. We all have different body types. We have different
Yeah.
tendencies. So, but just an example.
Yeah. So I can give you my example. What I've learned is whenever I do one task, I have a small break. What I've learned is it's not about quantity, but quality of what you do. I come from the background, especially when I came to England first time, I thought that I need to prove that I'm worthy to be in this particular job, that, I'm good to be there, that I deserve to be there. So I was doing a lot more than my colleagues, for example, which was creating resentment and anger in me towards my colleagues. But actually I was the problem, not them, because I was doing too much. But in my head, I thought I have to do a lot. The more productive I am, the better I am. But when I recovered from my burnout, I realized that that's not the path. If you want to be productive, you need to have breaks. Because if you're constantly on the go, 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 at some point your brain is like, I'm not listening to you, I'm not cooperating with you. At some point your body will be the same, I'm not cooperating with you. So let's have a headache. Or let's have a frozen shoulder, for example, because we're not cooperating with you anymore. Through having the breaks help you to reset your nervous system, regain your energy, and refocus. And honestly, you are more productive after having a break. So what I do is, after a call with a client, I have a break. After, I don't know, writing an email, I have a break. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's half an hour, sometimes it's just 2 minutes to move from one room to another. That's enough sometimes. Sometimes it's just going to the garden, looking at trees and coming back. But I am conscious of taking breaks because I know that I function better and I'm more productive.
I agree. I think that you just remind me of the yin yang and how we can't have one without the other. They all have to coexist. But we try to not no we, but I'm talking for a lot of people that again
Yeah.
9 to 5. Once I'm out of there, I'm out. But through the time that I'm there, I'm just doing that. Things
Yeah.
work better together, and there's a biological explanation to it. You have rhythms. What I have learned is that they are 90 to 120 minutes, and the issue not just that you like. I mean, you burn out. I experienced 2 burnouts. Um, I can talk about that because it's very damaging to your health. But
Yeah.
when you're talking about performing, not just in a sustainable way, which that is what goes away. You cannot sustain that momentum forever. Eventually, you break. Your body stops collaborating, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to producing your best work, we go through those cycles. So learning how to recognize that when you feel it, and you're like, and that's something that I have developed thanks to self-awareness, is that I'm having this foggy moment right now. Wait a minute,
Yeah.
you need a break. You're going into that resting cycle that you need to get. And if you don't get it, sure, you put in another 15, 20 minutes of work, good for you, but it's going to be garbage because you are
Yeah.
not at your top game. And whatever it is that you're doing, you're just kind of gonna go in automatic mode, and it's not gonna be your best work.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think that breaks become so meaningful. And if you just start, oh, I must, I want to perform and also do good breaks. Sure, a lot of times it's just walking around there, but having a little bit of a menu helps, right? And I think that we have touched on all of them. Movement,
Yeah.
taking a nap, which is part of sleep, exercise, and that's what I do. So like my days look very different. I'm gonna go work out. Usually I have a little template, but sometimes your body craves movement a little differently depending on the season.
Yeah.
So that's when those seasonal routines come in for me to help me being in alignment with the environment, in alignment with my own biology, with my body, through a seasonal routine. So I think that I have learned a lot so far. And I think that we are getting to the closing statement here. I do want to let the audience know that we have a freebie on the description down below, which is about everything that we have covered so far. If you can let us know, Carolina, a little bit of what is there.
Yeah. So I created a tool which I called Pause, Small Breaks, Big Wins, which we talked about. Just few simple exercises which you can use here and now to ground yourself, to reset your nervous system, and to have a pause. To have a pause, to give you ideas how to have the pause, to help you go through the day and avoid burnout and being exhausted.
How can you do that? How can you provide that tool when we're trying to stay away from cookie cutter advice? Like I think it's very important because there is power in guidance and frameworks. I think that's what you're perhaps are providing,
Yeah.
right? because we're all different.
Yeah, that's true. And it was really difficult for me to find the suitable exercises, to be honest. But I went to basics. So one of the exercise is a breathing technique. One of the exercise which I introduced there is movement, a few ideas how you can move your body. So I'm not telling you exactly use this exercise because it worked for me. I'm telling you this exercise is good because,
Hmm.
and I encourage you to try it. And
I
I give
agree. I
you
think,
options
yeah,
so you can choose which one is better for you.
I agree. I think that having that self awareness that what worked for you is not going to work for me, and the person listening, it is key, and it works
Yeah.
both ways. It's like every time that you are getting advice, you have to also filter it. And I want to share one of the ways that I do to filter that, which is where is this person located, and
Mhm.
at what time of the year is this advice relevant? A
Yeah.
lot of times, and this is a little bit of a warning for anybody listening, is that when you're watching something on YouTube and you're hearing this is what works, a lot of times it's just what works for the person, which is fine. That person is
Yeah.
sharing, is coming from a good place. But how about if you have three kids under 6 years old? If you are an entrepreneur, or if you are a employee, or how about what I find very important is how certain, we call them hacks, but they are more than that. They are, I call them hacks.
Yeah.
Um, self-care routines and habits, how they sometimes act differently from season to season. Meaning,
Hmm.
in the winter, I might need to lift myself a little bit up, and if I breathe, if I take short inhales, long exhales, I will actually calm myself even more, which I mean is fine. That might be the objective. But if I do it backwards, it will give me energy.
Yeah.
And knowing how to use those, so we can say, breathing is great. But even going a little step deeper is depending on the season you're in, how you're feeling, how you want to feel, you can use it a little different. I think that's
Absolutely.
when like engaging with a coach like Caroline can be extremely helpful, because she can only give you so much, right? On a on a guide, but when she understands you, she can actually guide you in a better way. I think
Yeah.
that's the power of coaching.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. To me, it's really important. I really disagree with cookie cutter because I experienced that and I know how it's impacting mums. It leads moms into guilt and shame quite often because, yeah, someone says it worked for me, so it's going to work for you for sure. You try it, not realizing that, okay, I have three kids under six, I work part-time, and it's winter, and getting up at 5 o'clock is not doable for me. Yet this person said, so I should. And now I feel guilty because I cannot do it. So it's my fault. I'm the failure because I cannot do it. It's, I
Yeah,
really disagree with that. And I'm really passionate about going back to basics.
yeah. That's why I made an effort on my own end to as well to provide people a way to learn about themselves. A
Yeah.
lot of us have at one given point in our life have no awareness of our body types, and or the way we think, how we eat is differently than somebody else, and
Yeah.
not just right now, but how we're designed to eat. Plus, right now, if you are overweight or underweight, or the time of the season, there's a lot that goes into it.
There is. And self-awareness is part of self-care. Again, self-care is not just pleasure and pampering. It's supporting your overall well-being.
I agree. Well, we are getting to the end of this episode. I want to thank you, Carolina.
Thank
I want
you.
to thank you very much. I think that we have uncovered a lot of importance about the basics, about meaningful breaks.
Yeah.
And whoever is listening this far, I know that has gotten home what they came for. So thank you so much. If you want to leave us with one encouraging message, this is your chance for it. But I want to let everybody listening that the guide is going to be in the description down below. So go ahead and check it out. And thank you so much for watching this far. I'm your host, Ruben, with the Seasonal Movement. I'm going to turn it to Caroline to let us know how to go about life in a way that is empowering. And I'm extremely excited. And thank you so much, Caroline.
Thank you very, very much for having me today. I really enjoyed this conversation. I have one message to all of you, including you. Just be kind to yourself. Be
There you
kind to
go.
yourself.
Well, let's start practicing that. That's, I think, the perhaps the DNA of self care, right?
Mm,
Having grace for ourselves, know that we're in this life to learn, that we didn't show up with a manual, not all the kids did. And we're going to make mistakes. And if we learn from it, it's not about fixing it, it's about changing the way we go about it. So thank you for that reminder. Trust yourself, care for yourself, be kind to yourself, and I will see you on the next episode. Keep it seasonal.
thank you.